Hi there, good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC with me, Almond. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. A couple have been jailed for abusing a child, resulting in her death when she was 22 months old. Participants in the Cyclothon will be racing on the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge when the event returns in January. And Hong Kong's Magic Kingdom shuts for the day after a visitor contracts COVID. A man and his girlfriend have been jailed for 5 years and 4 months each for child abuse that led to the death of a 22-month-old girl. The victim had dozens of wounds on her body when she died from head injuries. Defendants Or Ching Man and Xiu Kwok Wai were driven to the High Court for sentencing after pleading guilty earlier to abusing a young girl whose mother asked them to look after. The defendants were accused of neglecting and ill-treating the child named Haley between January and June 2019. 36-year-old Orr had slapped Haley uncontrollably when she wouldn't stop crying or had urinated on the floor. The girl was also beaten with a bamboo stick and chained and left alone when the couple went out to eat with their own children. Construction worker Xiu, aged 33, admitted slapping Haley and didn't stop his girlfriend when she was abusive. The girl was rushed to hospital in mid-June after becoming unconscious and died from head injuries. She was only 22 months old. An autopsy found Haley had about 70 wounds on her body. Many, including those to the head, were inflicted shortly before her death. In mitigation, Orr said she should have refused to look after Haley as she had 4 daughters of her own. But she accepted the baby out of sympathy. Orr expressed sorrow and regret. In handing down sentence, Judge Albert Wong said Haley was too young to defend herself or seek help. He said the couple's violence and neglect had caused her poor health, adding their abuse was severe. The judge said while Orr was the main abuser, Xiu turned a blind eye and was equally guilty. He took their guilty plea into consideration before sentencing Orr and Xiu to 5 years and 4 months each. The Hong Kong Cyclothon is set to return in January, with the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge included in the route. But participants have been warned not to wear shirts bearing political statements. Joanna Chen tells us more.
The Hong Kong Cyclothon, which was scrapped for 2 years running because of anti-government protests and then COVID, had been due to make a comeback this month. But as a precaution, the Tourism Board decided to move it to January 16th, with the route covering the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge for the first time. Cyclists can take the 26-kilometer route from the Hong Kong end to the border with Guangdong, or the 48-kilometer route, which circles that track a second time. But there are no drinking stations along the way. Online booking opens on Saturday, with priority given to those who applied for the 2019 edition.
We anticipate there will be more than 3,000 interested parties registered for this event. Based on our previous experience, every time when we have the event, the registration normally will be fully registered within half a day.
But Hong warned participants not to wear shirts with political slogans.
It's a sporting event. It's an event for the public. We hope everybody enjoy themselves through a cycling.
Hong said cyclists who disobey and do not change their clothes will be handed over to the relevant authorities. In the Standard Chartered Marathon last month, police targeted runners whose shirts bore the slogan "Hong Kong Add Oil." Cyclothon participants must be fully vaccinated, be COVID-free, and use the Leave Home Safe app. Johanna Chan, HKIBC.
Also back in business after a 2-year hiatus is the cross-harbour race. Online booking for the event on December 12 opened today, but slots for swimmers have been cut by half to 1,500 because of COVID. Participants in the New World Harbour Race must be double jabbed, show a negative test result, and use the Leave Home Safe app on the day. A business expert has warned that foreign investors would desert the city if it continues with its strict quarantine policy. The requirements were blamed for a package delivery firm closing its Hong Kong pilot base. Annie Lau reports.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam has admitted that tightening quarantine measures for cargo pilots could affect the city's economy and logistics. The impact is starting to show, with FedEx closing its Hong Kong pilot base. The global package delivery firm indicated that requiring vaccinated local aircrew to undergo quarantine for a fortnight is unsustainable. FedEx will maintain its operations in Hong Kong, with planes flown by Auckland-based pilots. The firm relocated 180 Hong Kong pilots to California earlier this year because of the quarantine rules, and the move is now permanent. The strict regulations also prompted Tara Joseph, president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, to announce that she will step down next year. Joseph, who's in the United States, says she could not advocate against quarantine and then accept going into isolation on returning to the city. Business expert Simon Lee warned about the risks of losing foreign investors in the long run.
Many countries, they are opening the border, but Hong Kong still remain closed. So Hong Kong can still survive or maintain such policy maybe for another 6 months. But after another 6 months, Hong Kong continues to do that, then opportunities will disappear, will go to somewhere.
Lee urged the government to relax its quarantine requirements. Annie Lau, HKIBC.
Hong Kong health authorities are following up after being alerted by their mainland counterparts that a package tested positive for COVID. Traces of the virus were found on the package sent from Inner Mongolia. The parcel was believed to contain items bought from Taobao. The recipient and staff of a Hong Kong warehouse have all been asked to get tested. The mainland has seen a number of positive parcel cases recently, especially after the Singles' Day shopping event. Hong Kong-Disneyland had to shut down for the day after one of its visitors tested positive for COVID. Those who were at the park on Sunday have been slapped with a government testing order. Winnie Wong has more.
Hong Kong's happiest place on earth was forced to close shop today. That's after one of its guests who visited the park last Sunday came back positive for the coronavirus. As a result, the government ordered compulsory screening for anyone who was at Hong Kong Disneyland from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on November 14th. In a statement, park authorities said it decided to close to give relevant staff time to get tested. It will reopen tomorrow. The visitor who contracted COVID is a 29-year-old foreign domestic helper who flew in from Indonesia last month and was quarantined for 3 weeks at Penny's Bay. On Monday, a test at a community center found that she was preliminary positive, and she was confirmed to be infected when she was admitted to hospital. Due to her low viral load, authorities suspect she may be a so-called re-positive case, which means the result could be related to leftover traces of the virus from a previous infection. She had shown a positive result from a test a few days before she came to Hong Kong. But she was allowed to board her flight because a second test came back negative. The city recorded 3 imported cases today. The patients came from Pakistan and South Korea, and all tested positive for the L452R mutant strain. The Center for Health Protection says it's also following up on another re-positive case from Singapore. Winnie Wong, HKIBC.
For the first time ever, the ICAC will send marshals to polling stations during the Legislative Council elections next month. The anti-graft body said it will mobilize about 800 people on the front line to deal with inquiries and complaints. They will also help monitor the vote counting. The ICAC will give recommendations at once if needed. It said it has so far received 6 complaints, all related to inciting others not to vote or to cast blank ballots.
This is the first election after the amendment, and we want to ensure that we have a fair, clean, and open and honest election. Regarding the incitement, again, I think the specific situation is different in cases by cases, so we are not going to comment on the situation. But we want to appeal to all the citizens not to engage in making any illegal appeals or repose of any unlawful content. That is, I think, the gist or the spirit of the amendment of the ordinance.
U.S. President Joe Biden is basking in glory after securing high marks on the domestic and international fronts. But he has had to clarify his position on Taiwan after using the word independent. Sarah Wong reports.
The U.S. president was in high spirits after securing a political victory at home and advancing diplomacy abroad. Joe Biden signed a bipartisan infrastructure bill into law and had a warm and fruitful virtual summit with his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping. But Biden sparked confusion on the U.S. position towards Taiwan and had to clarify himself after he said it's independent, it makes its own decisions.
No, I said that they have to decide. They, Taiwan, not us. And we are not encouraging independence, we're encouraging that they do exactly what the Taiwan Act requires. And that's what we're doing. Let them make up their mind, period.
The White House said Biden underscored U.S. commitments to the One China policy and opposed any unilateral bid by Beijing to alter the status quo in the Taiwan Strait. U.S. officials said Biden also raised concerns over China's economic practices and human rights in Hong Kong, which Beijing regards as its internal affair. Despite the absence of a major breakthrough, the summit has nudged Sino-U.S. ties a step forward, as both sides agreed to relax visa restrictions for journalists. But the Winter Olympics, which Beijing will host next year, was not on the agenda, despite expectations that it will be discussed because of boycott calls in the West. Biden said he has dealt with the issue without explaining further. Sarah Wong, HKIBC.
And we'll have more after the break. Tensions surge as migrants step a bit to cross into Poland from Belarus.